These are
So
the beautiful, beautiful, hot, amazing, talented Mikela and Jillian. The two of you are Filipino American actresses and models, brands you've worked with: Target, Vans, Meta, Lululemon.
I was scouted on Instagram. Use hashtags, guys. I mean, I don't use hashtags anymore. Yeah, hashtag scout me.
Use them anymore.
I don't mean that. I'm just lazy. I had told my mother agent, like, oh, I had a twin sister. She was more than down to be signed with me.
So let's talk about jealousy.
Oh. I can talk about that.
Walk me through when your parents separated and how did family dynamics change, especially when you two are so intertwined.
We had our mom on like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and our dad on like Tuesday, Thursdays. So we were jumping every day. We got really close. I think ever since then, we started like talking and FaceTiming every single day. I can't go a day without talking to her. I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
How are people gonna decipher who's who speaking?
Hello guys, welcome to
Hi.
Happy Hour.
Hi.
Okay, my room is very cramped right now because today I have not one but two guests. There's three of us here because I have a set of twins on the podcast. These are the beautiful, beautiful, hot, amazing, talented Goza Twins, Mikela and Jill. Jill, can I just call you Jill?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah,
Jill.
Jillian or Jill for short.
Jill. And Kella. Okay, Jill and Kella. Oh my gosh, you get to say their short names now. So
we're on short name terms.
Nickname terms. And so their fashion styles are absolutely amazing. Like they're amazing at accessorizing. I wanted to talk about how we got connected. So I met Kella first at an in-person casting. And
because that's just what we do.
It was for like an Apple commercial or something.
Yeah, it was like called like Project Hippo.
And then it was called because of NDA. It was called Project Hippo. And for some reason, you found out that it was for Apple. And I was like,
she's smart.
I have no idea. Well, we didn't get it.
Yeah. I think I turned to you and we didn't even know each other. I was like, I think this is for Apple. And you were like, how so? And then I just started like elaborating and you were like, I like you.
Yeah, I did. So because for these castings, when they say that your casting time is at a set time, it's that time plus an hour and a half. So we're all in there just waiting, sitting around. And so might as well just get to chat with people. And so I talked with you for definitely a long time as we were waiting. And then after that, when we left, we were like, we should get a coffee and then catch up. And I like to follow up. So we did. And when you did, you brought Jill, and so the three of us hung out at a coffee shop and talked for like 2 to 3 hours because there was no Wi-Fi there.
But it's just the way that she asked you, oh, can my twin come? And you're like, sure. And then I come and I end up talking more than her.
I don't remember that. I remember it was a pretty, just very flowy conversation.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, usually, so you're the more talkative one, Jill?
People would pick that out, like from,
in the first minute.
Yeah, because I tend to go onto tangents, as my boyfriend says. Yeah, I do talk a lot. I mean, we pretty much have the same personality, I would say, but we're both extroverted, but also like introverted. Like we're both ambiverts, really. Like it kind of just depends on the person. But I tend to be more of the rambunctious, outgoing, bubbly one. Like it's weird. It just depends if I vibe with you. Extroverted version, introverted version.
A little yin and yang moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like I talk a lot if I know the person, but if I don't really know the person, then I'll talk and then be like, remain mysterious. I tend to overshare.
Okay, well, let's start with your introductions. Everyone's like, I want to know who they are. Okay, so today on a happy hour, I have the Goza Twins, Mikela and Jillian, but short for Kella and Jill. So the two of you are Filipino American actresses and models. You kind of bounce between Orange County and LA, but I know, Jill, you're basically living in LA right now.
Yeah, I live in LA.
Amazing.
Mikela's the one that lives in
Orange County. Okay, so but you both grew up in Murrieta. Is that how I say it?
Yeah,
Murrieta,
literally middle of nowhere.
It's like in San Diego.
Yeah, towards there.
Yeah, and so when you guys started modeling, I would assume you guys made frequent trips to LA for castings.
Absolutely, and it was for a lot of stuff that we didn't get either, and it would be like round trip like 3 hours because it would be like an hour and a half to get there and back. And sometimes we'd even hit traffic. So it'd sometimes be more too.
Yeah. I can't imagine. I'm not a driver. I didn't grow up driving. So anything that's over 40 minutes for me, I can't stand it. I like to take the subway. I like to take the bus, but I'm in LA, so I can't do that. But all that paying for gas has paid off. So amazing.
Has it?
Has borne fruit.
Yes.
So here are some amazing brands you've worked with. Just casually name dropping: Target, Vans, Meta, Lululemon. And Mikela, I saw that you did a commercial for the holidays for Afterpay. And that was so cute. I loved the whole entire like design of the commercial. And then Jill, you recently worked with Curology.
Yes, I did. I went to San Francisco for that.
Amazing.
That was back in April.
And also the two of you have walked for LA Fashion Week as well. But both of you have big dreams. Jill, you said that one of your ultimate goals is to be in films and TV because you have a background in dance and theater. And Mikela, you say you hope to own your own fashion and beauty lines because you have a business degree. So
yeah,
what an amazing little like dynamic you two have.
Like same but different.
Yeah, same but different.
Equally passionate and driven, but we have our own interests, which, you know, makes us different people. Because at the end of the day, I know we're like identical twins, but a lot of people fail to recognize that we have our own desires and dreams and wants, and we're not the same, and we don't wake up wanting to be twins 24/7.
Yeah.
Although it is fun to work together. It's always fun to have like each other on set for sure. But sometimes I do like feeling like she's not my competition, because, you know, a lot of the time we do castings and it's like she's my number one competitor, you know. But it's also at the same time, if one of us doesn't book it, I'm always like, she better book it. You know what I mean? It's whether or not we're competitors like against each other, like for like we're up against a job, I would rather have her book it than
anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm biased.
I also do want to say that when the three of us met for coffee, we like saw NCT.
Oh, that was really funny. That was like a moment.
And
you were like, who?
So I don't listen to their music, unfortunately, but I do know of them because at Wired we did do an autocomplete with them, and so when I was at Wired, so I do know of them, and I told my sister and my other close friend in high school, and they were freaking out, and I was like, I don't know. But there was like a paparazzi car behind them with this super long telephoto lens, like trying to follow them.
Exactly.
And I just felt so bad.
In the K-pop community, we call them sasaengs. And it was mainly like the paparazzis were like girls around like our age and they're or younger or even slightly older and following around just to get the perfect angle of the idol. And it was just one idol that we saw, but
who was it?
His name was Jaehyun. He was part of the unit NCT 127. And I think they were on tour that day for Los Angeles. And he just happened to slip up like in the middle of our conversation. He like dropped his phone like while we were talking, and Melissa was like, who is this guy? And I was like, oh, that's him. Yeah, he like was right behind us, and I didn't want to like turn around. I was just like, okay, don't turn around and don't make it. I was like, don't make him realize that you know who he is, just and don't freak out. Pretty. Yeah. I held my composure. Like other girls. He's beautiful. I mean, in person.
Sure he is.
Yeah.
I didn't take a look. Yeah. I was afraid.
Yeah, exactly. I tried not to take a look, but.
But I think I did Google him afterwards. He's
pretty.
Fine man. Okay. So because you guys are signed to several modeling agencies, and then you also have a mother agency, and so I want to get into like the technical aspect. And for anyone who's interested in going into the fields that you're in right now, can you just differentiate between a regular agency and a mother agency?
Okay, yeah. So a mother agency is basically someone who acts as your like personal manager, like in terms of modeling. They would be your personal manager, and they're basically the ones who have discovered you or have signed you first. They're the ones that develop your book and help you be placed into other agencies like internationally or regionally, like, you know, in the States. For example, like our mother agency is Clover Model Management, and they're just a small like agency that's based in New York. But because they act as like our manager, he had scouted me in 2020 during the pandemic, like over social media. I was scouted on Instagram on the explore page, which was random. I mean, I did use hashtag scout me because I was trying to get to get casted. So use hashtags, guys. I mean, I don't use hashtags anymore. But yeah, hashtag scout me.
Use them anymore.
I don't mean that. I'm just lazy. I forget.
I get you.
But
It came off like
no. I'm not trying to say that. But use hashtags. And yeah, I got scouted. They signed me like 2020 when everything was like not in person. So really, like, I didn't start picking up work until like 2021, like a year after. But yeah, I was scouted, and then I had told my mother agent like, oh, I had a twin sister, but he didn't end up scouting, really signing her until like 6 months later.
And why was that?
It was, I think it's because honestly, and this is nothing that goes against her or anybody who is shorter, but I think it was height, because I'm 5'8" and she's 5'6.5". And I think he wanted to just try to push me out first individually. 6 months after, April 2021, he was like, oh, you have a twin sister? And I'm like, yes, I told you. I'm like, I told you. And I was like, okay, disregard that. But he was like, yeah, I think you guys would be marketable as twins. Let's sign her. And I was like, okay, let me ask her. And of course she was like more than happy to do it.
What were you doing at the time?
I was a college student working at Sonic. Yeah, I was at Sonic. I was a car hop, and I think I was working there or either, I don't know, what was I doing in 2021? Yeah, I think that's what I was doing.
Is Sonic the one where you're on rollerblades?
Yeah, well, I was on roller skates, so I was on the quads, and I had like cute little pink ones, and especially during quarantine when nothing was open, that was like the prime spot to get food because it was the only like quote on dine-in place that you can eat. And so I got a lot of tips, and that was like basically like my full income, and I was a full-time college student. So I wasn't really like focused on the fashion realm also. And 2020 and 2021 was like where I was focusing on my social media. I was more of a creative influencer, trying to get my numbers out. I was doing PRs and stuff like that, so I didn't really get into like the fashion industry until I was introduced via Jill. Yeah.
So you both had different entry points.
Yeah, basically, but she was more than down to be signed with me. And then when we both got signed, I got signed 2020, and then when she came along for the ride, we started building our books together with our mother agent, who basically, you know, they build your portfolio. So we started taking test shoots, like hitting up photographers, building our book, like getting our photos done. And then when our agent, like our mother agent, decided like, oh, our book is good enough to present to LA agencies, because we were closer to LA. Mind you, we weren't living in LA at the time, but because we were in California, and he was like, oh, you guys are close to LA. Like, let's try to base you in LA.
There's not really much of a modeling market in San Diego besides, I mean, the swim. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's just like not the demographic that he wanted us to be in. So he was just like, let's do LA if you guys are down to commit to that.
Yeah. Which we don't mind swim. I mean, I would love to do swim, but I think he wanted to push out fashion and commercial like stuff first. So then we got introduced to a few agencies, and then NTA was the one that was like, I think it was the second agency we talked to, and they were like the most eager to sign us. And so we interviewed with NTA models.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, but essentially, to answer your question, a mother agency is, I mean, the word mother is, it technically like nurtures and helps you prepare for like real world jobs and stuff. I mean, you can book directly through your mother agency, but they technically get you prepared and started to get to like bigger agencies. And we were lucky enough to be signed to NTA in both their talent and modeling division. And then shortly after that, we got placed in a New York agency as well. We're with True at the moment. Yeah. So we both market for LA and New York, even though we do more LA because we're just locally placed here. It's a little bit harder to book based upon like traveling and stuff for New York, but I've been lucky enough to travel through for New York jobs.
If someone who wants to become signed and they're like, okay, where do I begin? I need to put together my portfolio. I need to put together a book. What is a book? What is this? Like, so can you guide through any aspiring models on like how to get started and how to put a good portfolio together?
I think it always just starts with taking your own pictures. They don't even have to be professional. Like when I started freelancing in high school, and I wasn't even professionally modeling at the time, but I wanted to model. So I would post on social media just selfies and like, you know, pictures like of like traveling to the beach or like outfit pictures. Like it's as simple as just getting like a full body shot, like a headshot, meaning just even a selfie, like a profile shot, a 3/4, like, which is just like an angled like picture, just taking those pictures of yourself, and even as simple as sending out those pictures to agencies' emails, whether it's a mother agent or just like anybody like in LA, New York, like wherever you want to get signed to. I personally, like in high school, I was taking pictures and sending emails all the time. And I even had my mom, she would come with me too. I'd even have my mom drive me to castings like in San Diego.
Do you want a sip of your
Oh my God,
soybean milk chocolate? Sorry, I forgot to offer it to you. But okay, oh my gosh, we're like already 20-30 minutes in and I didn't even introduce the drink. So this is cold soybean milk and I added chocolate with a bit of honey.
Ooh, so good.
Thank you.
Ooh, it's really good. A little ASMR for you.
But yeah, I love drinking soybean milk in the mornings, like back home.
That's delicious.
It'd be like a hot cup of doujiang soybean milk, or it could be a hot cup of rice milk, mijiang, or it could be a hot cup of mixed hunjiang. And so it's definitely like this with like a Chinese donut or something hot with like the rice ball with like pork floss in it. Wait, we can grab lunch after this.
I know. Like, it tastes very nostalgic to me. Like Jill and I, we grew up eating a lot of chomporado. It's basically just like a chocolate rice porridge, and it's kind of like
Milo.
yeah, it was with evaporated and condensed milk with like chocolate and rice, and it's just like a really beautiful, tasty concoction. And a lot of people would argue that my boyfriend, he's his family's from Mexico, so he's like, no, that's a Mexican meal. And I'm like, well, the Filipinos have it too. Yeah. And you know,
Filipinos are Asian Mexicans. That's like a thing. It's like, I mean, well, we were colonized by Spain, so like, you know, so we have very similar, like,
it tastes very nostalgic. That's what I want to say. It's really good. Thank you. I'm like, thank you.
Okay, so to summarize what we were talking about, if you want to get started becoming a commercial model, you don't need any fancy camera equipment. You just need your phone.
Absolutely. And even if you have a tripod too.
Yeah.
We literally would go to the mall and people would watch us take photos on the white walls, and we would just take our photos there. And honestly, it paid off. It was embarrassing, but I mean, if you're like down and committed, you really don't need a nice setup. And just keep posting on Instagram.
To put hashtags scout me.
But she doesn't need them anymore.
and particularly, I know this about different modeling agencies. They have their own different hashtags.
They do.
Yeah. So looking into the different ones and seeing.
Scout Me was actually for like Scout models or like Wilhelmina or something. I don't know. Like multiple agencies use that, but I know mainly that was for like Scout. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Now let's go to your childhood. Oh yeah, because you guys grew up in San Diego. Was it a creative community there? Like, how did you guys start becoming creative people?
So Murrieta is like, I would say, an hour away from San Diego.
We were more basic. It's actually more like it's like Inland Empire. In order to get to anywhere, you basically had to drive 30 minutes to an hour to places you want to go.
How did you guys like get a creative outlet in a place that felt like there was nothing there?
Social media. I mean, honestly, that was like our, way to get in, was just envying other people's life, and we're like, wow, like there's nothing to do here. I crave more. And
I would also say like we were lucky enough to go to a pretty good like high school, and our high school had those like creative electives that let us explore. So for one, like I got into fashion or more into fashion because they offered fashion design classes, and that's why I got so interested in the fashion industry, and Jill for dance and theater and stuff. So we were lucky enough to have those creative outlets. I think everywhere else, though, it was pretty like Murrieta and Temecula area is pretty traditional in the way that it's laid out. It's very like old town country, a lot of churches, just very like, just not anything for like a creative soul. But I think for high school, we were pretty fortunate to do that because with that, and then a lot of YouTube and a lot of social media and a lot of like networking as you get older, it was more inspiring to actually get out of that area rather than the city being creative itself.
It made you want things.
Yes, it was more desirable to kind of like work harder to get to where we need to be because there's not really anything that offered that there.
We actually both started dancing when you were 6. We did the Nutcracker productions in elementary school.
So ballet.
Yeah, so we did ballet like when you were 6 up until we were like 11 years old, and then in middle school we got into competitive color guard, and we did our like club.
Flags, spinning
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so we went to color guard competition.
Marching band, like where you twirl the rifles, spin the flags.
So when I was in 1st grade, I went to Chinese opera camp, and I was twirling the little thingies too.
Oh my God, I love that.
Because I played a fairy, and it's not like your Eurocentric fairy where you had like wings and stuff. You had the little twirly things.
Yes.
You had a lot of fabric.
Definitely, I'm glad at least one of us has kept the skill going because I do get jealous. I'm like, oh, I wish I could dance.
And
I wish I could dance.
It helps too a lot for modeling campaigns and commercials because I have like really good movement on camera. I've been told like to do like crazy movements or like poses, and we, even for our Meta commercial that we did, it was a dance number.
So good. I saw you guys were like next to an octopus or something.
Yes,
a
squid.
The squid's the dance.
It was fun, but
amazing.
that my dance experience helped with that. And even when Kella hasn't danced in a long time, like you could even ask her.
Something overcame me, like a switch, and I just started dancing. And Jill was like, "See, you can dance," and I was like, "I think that's like my alter ego. Like I say I can't dance, and then next you know, when I'm like behind cameras and a million people are watching me, I'm like." I am a new me.
I had to push her a little bit, and I had to get her more comfortable, like, because she was like freaking out, like, oh, I don't know how to do this. So I was like helping
a glow
her.
stick that needs to be cracked open before I start glowing. like I don't have my true potential until you like really just like get in there.
Yeah,
It was-
diamonds are made under pressure.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I like that.
So I'd like to explore the concept of how twins are perceived, like in school and just in general. Like in school, if you're a twin, I feel like you're just automatically cooler because you have like an it factor because you have it feels it's like a more rare occurrence. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, how were you guys perceived in school?
I would definitely have to say that was like our identity growing up throughout like middle school, especially high school. I think like even all through elementary school too, like we were known as the twins. And I think like when someone said, oh, the twins, like they would know that it was like us. We're a little bit more sociable and outgoing, and we just like fortunately just like knew a lot of people because I used to be like pretty extroverted and like I used to talk to everybody. So we were still recognizably known as the twins. And then when it started getting to a point where there was like way too many twins, we were known as the Goza Twins.
Yeah.
So, but I think like a lot of people fail to understand that like we were really only identified as twins, and like we didn't even start having our own friend groups until like senior year. I think because like everyone just wanted to hang out as twins. Like if we hung out, they would be like, oh, is Jill coming? Or oh, is Kella coming? You know, it was kind of more of like we were like an accessory. They were like, oh, like the twins need to come. We need to like selfie with the twins, or the twins need to come. It was like more like that. I don't think a lot of people recognize that, but like we immediately like we can see that, you know, it's happened our whole life.
I do want to talk about your family though, because you do say that are your parents divorced?
Yes.
Okay. And what's interesting is that you guys don't live together currently. Can you describe to me the current nature of like Kella, where do you currently live, and like who do you live with?
I actually live with my boyfriend and his family. I just moved in like the beginning of this year. I think like end of February, beginning of March. It's pretty fresh to me because it's really like my real first time away from home, because we've moved out briefly when we graduated high school just for funsies with the roommates, and then it literally took like 4 months for us to go back home because of family stuff, and just the dynamic wasn't good. But I live with my boyfriend and his family now, and it's a pretty good environment. We live just like we just room in one room together, and I like that nature because I mean naturally I've always lived with family. Like before then I was living with my dad and one of our brothers, because if you don't know, I think I've told you this before, we have twin brothers.
I had no idea.
I've told you this.
What?
Yeah,
Wait.
I've told you this. Identical twins as well. They're 21. They just turned 21 as
Holy
of June
crap.
12th. And their names are Jacob and Dylan.
Your mom
And-
is a superhero.
right? No, she's literally the best woman in the world. I love her. Yeah, she's a trooper. Because, like, honestly, like, she conceived them on birth control. Like, who does that? Twins.
Walk me through when your parents separated and
Mm-hmm.
how did family dynamics change, especially when you two are so intertwined.
Oh, yeah. It happened in 2011. It was like, it really just happened so suddenly. I just remember like our dad just like one day like left. He was like, I'm going on a business trip. And then I just remember him like not coming back. But it wasn't him. It was like he had to gradually leave because my mom, like, I don't know, don't really want to like disclose the whole nature of the divorce. But essentially, like, we do have a really good relationship with both of our parents. Not saying that like, you know, our parents' whole thing was like from their own accord, and as kids we were like, oh, is this our fault? Like, why is dad leaving? Or like, why does dad not live with mom anymore?
He was essentially just moving like out into his own place. And then when we had found out like mom and dad are separating, like your parents are getting divorced, like, you know, of course, growing up like and finding out like, oh, your parents are separating, like as children of divorce, you kind of feel like some sort of guilt because you don't fully understand it, and you think like, oh, did we separate them? Like, did we cause it? Like, did we cause the fights, you know? But
And there's always going to be that like nature where like when your parents are venting to you about what the other parent is doing and they want you to pick sides, naturally it starts feeling like, oh, we're basically like the monkey in the middle. Like all four of us kids were monkey in the middle, where we were just like, we had to pick mommy or daddy. And, you know, it was like, who's your favorite, or who do you want to have more visitation with? And it just started becoming like a really big like favoritism thing. And
for like 7 years.
at that time, that was like where it became very rocky, I would say. Like growing up like adolescent with divorced parents, it's like you had to pick mom or dad's side. And there was a time where we lived with our mom more, saw our dad on the weekends, and then vice versa. Like the next year it would switch, and then the next year it would switch again up until we were 18.
Yeah, there was also a time like as soon as we turned 18 and we were able to decide like with no like visitation rights, decide like who we wanted to live with, I decided to live with my mom. And Mikela stayed with me at the time too, like at her mom's house, and had her own room. But then also like as years like progressed, she ended up moving in with dad. It's weird. Like I jumped back and forth even after like we were 18, like even though we didn't have visitation rights, like I would move in with my mom, but then I would move out of my mom's and move in with my dad.
Yeah, can you describe what visitation rights are and like how strictly are they enforced?
So like I don't want to get into the whole like law things of it because I don't like.
It was basically like a court rule where like based on like the percentage of like, and it was like you know, when the adults were talking, basically like the judge had decided what home was more of a which was essentially a better environment for the kids to grow up, and based on what was presented to them from the parents and what we wrote as kids, like in our letters, because we had to do a lot of therapy and mediations, and we had to talk to people about, you know, what was going on at home. And not to say that anything like terrible happened, but I think just based on if we were like kids and we were like, oh, daddy yelled at us or mommy was mad, you know, that would immediately go, you know, and that would be recorded. So eventually all of those it's strictly enforced, basically. Like if the court was like, oh, they're gonna be with mom on the weekdays and then dad on the weekends. There was even a point where, it was so weird and uncomfortable, but we had our mom on like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and our dad on like Tuesday, Thursdays. So we were jumping every day to like,
and the weekends would switch every week. So it was like weird. Like,
Is this why you would say you have trust issues? Because there's just there's a lot of like
yeah. And
I can uphold that to me. Like I have really bad trust issues because
there was instability.
instability. Exactly.
Yes, instability, miscommunication, and just a lot of things that just like didn't go the way that it was planned. So like when it comes to relationships and friendships, I have really, really bad trust issues.
Same.
But that makes you very like intentional or picky with your friends,
Yes,
which is a
that's
good
true.
thing.
I don't
too.
just like open myself up to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
particular. Like, although we get along with mostly everybody, we keep our circle, like, small.
Yeah. So when I came to the States, I feel like the family dynamics in Asia are much more traditional and much more simple. And when I came to the States, like, I knew so many friends of, like, divorced parents, or maybe, like, even there was a parent is, like, not alive anymore. So in America, there's a lot of broken families, or just, like, very, very different family dynamics. And so, but, you know, there are a lot of people out there that have divorced parents that, like, have amazing relationships with their parents. Like, what would you say are still some of the amazing things that have come out from, even though, you know, your parents are not together anymore? Like, what are some positive things you were able to still glean from?
So I think a really good thing that had come out of this is, yes, even though we had to grow up fast, I got a lot of problem solving because of this. So I think for me, I can think a little bit more logically and intellectually, and just think for myself and be more protective of my energy and my space. And with growth and a lot of, like, trauma, eventually comes, like, heartache, and then consolidation, and then or consoling, and you get a really good relationship with your parents. I think now that,
And your siblings.
yeah, we got really close, I think, all four of us together,
because you
as
can't
we got
take
older.
being together for granted if you're separated.
Yeah, because, like, essentially, like, we only had ourselves, and we didn't live, like she was saying, she was living at mom's and I was living at dad's, and yeah, the boys were separated too, and Jacob lived with mom and Dylan lived with me and my dad. So it was just like, it kind of really forced us to connect more. I think ever since then we started, like, talking and FaceTiming every single day. I can't go a day without talking to her. Like, I remember there was a point when we were in high school, or when I was living with mom's, and we would talk every day, but, like, we wouldn't really talk as much as we do now, even though we're separated now.
I think that's what helped, though.
Yeah, we got a lot closer, especially as getting older, and the boys are 21.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great that, you know, kind of learning from what you guys were talking about just now, that the time apart has led you two closer together. It's also the time apart has allowed you to find each of your own independence and individuality, which I think as twins, probably most twins struggle with all the time. So let's talk about jealousy.
Oh, I can talk about that.
Let's talk about jealousy. Okay. So, I mean, y'all are twins, as we've covered. And I know that Jill, you talked about this at the beginning of when we started recording, about, like, sometimes you might get a job and then the other person doesn't. How often has that happened? And, like, when that does happen, like, how do you two sort of...
so jealousy within ourselves, basically.
Let's start with that, yeah.
I would have to say, like, well, I'm going to start off with when she started doing, like, her own thing, like modeling and getting signed. There was a little part of me where I was like, okay, this is, like, what Jill wants to do, so I'm really happy for her, but why not me either? It was it was a place where I didn't feel seen, and I was like, really, like, 1.5 inches is gonna do it for me. Like, it felt like that in that sense, and I felt like I wasn't...
Short babes can model too.
Yeah, exactly. There was a part of me where I was just like, oh, like, I'm really happy for her. And when I showed interest in it, I think even a part of her was jealous, because she was like, she's taking away what I want to do, and she wants to do what I want to do. I can't even be my own person. And I didn't want her to feel that way, but I was just like, I want to be included, because I was like, Jill's my best friend. Like, I want to do what she loves, and, you know, naturally, I think it's just like, it's just ingrained in us. Like, we always want to be included in each other's lives. And I think, like, so when we do jobs separately, I can feel the tension from her. Like, oh, that's, like, I'm really happy for you. I'm happy for you. You know what I mean? Like, and then vice versa. But I think at the end of the day, like we were saying, if it's not me, I want it to be Jill. You know, we're not really as jealous with each other as we used to be.
There's still some, like, little parts of it when she, like, books a cool job. Like, especially when she went to New York for Target, I was like, wow, so fun. Why you get to go to New York? Not that I wasn't in New York all month in July last summer with Riley, but, like, whatever. But it's not like I'm mad at her for doing that. Like, dude, when she started posting all those pictures of her in Target, like, you know, like, even at her dad's wedding, like, our dad's, like, best friend, like, who we call Uncle Clay, like, he's been, like, our dad's best friend for literally 50 years or something like that. Yeah, like 50 years. He stole Mikela's like poster from Target and he brought it to the wedding and got Kella to sign it. And I was like, that like didn't even make me jealous. That like made me so like fulfilled and happy for her, because I was like, oh my god, like that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like ultimately there's like no like bad blood like between us. Like
It's never out of anger. It's always out of like feeling like you want to be
Like
included.
there's a FOMO aspect.
It's very much FOMO, and I think naturally I can never be mad at Jill. Like we can literally pull each other's hair, and 5 minutes later I'll like be cuddling up next to her.
it's just that sibling love.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, speaking of siblings, like how often do you have arguments? Like, do you two in general just get along like almost all the time? Because
We had an argument on the way here. Yeah. And actually we had an argument as I was parking my car and I was like grabbing stuff and I asked her to put something in the bag and she like gave me a snappy attitude and I was like, why are you talking to me like that?
I didn't give her a snappy attitude. I was like, she told me to put her keys in my bag, and I was like, why don't you just hold it? And she was like, why are you talking to me like that? I was like, talking to you like what? Just hold your keys. Like, damn.
No, but we honestly we get along.
but it's all just water under the bridge like immediately after. Or?
It's literally just banter.
It's literally I'm like it's banter. It's like
What was that?
well, could you say banter? Like, isn't that like a British people thing where they say banter?
It just means like
oh, I love
cackling, arguing together,
cackling.
like bitching at each other. You know.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so to close off our conversation, I want the two of you to compliment one thing about each other.
No, like, because I'm thinking, wait, like one word or just like compliment? Like,
Compliment,
okay.
yeah.
I just like am always in awe of your fashion sense.
So people who are not looking at the video, so now Jill is complimenting Mikela.
Yes. She's always been the fashion it girl. Like, even though I wanted to do modeling, like the reason why like I'm like so into fashion a lot more than I was like even before I started modeling is because of my sister. Like, she just has the best fashion sense out of everybody else that I know. And she just introduces me to brands that like I've never even heard of that are like insane. And I just like love the way she dresses, especially because we don't dress the same. We dress similar, like we complement each other and we wear the same clothes, but like style it differently. And she's always the one to like take it to the next level. She's such a trendsetter, and she's been that way since like high school when we first ever started wearing different clothes, you know, when you weren't dressing the same anymore. You would always like step out of the box, even if it was like the weirdest outfit ever. Like, you know, she would start trends and like
Regrettable moments.
yeah, but like, hey, like that's fashion. Like, you know, it's subjective, and I just love your style and like your passion for fashion. You're literally Bratz girl.
Thank you. That's why Bratz was my favorite growing up. Passion for fashion.
Okay, next.
Yeah,
So now
I would
Mikela is now complimenting Jill.
Yes.
I love how you can just express yourself through both femininity and masculinity. I feel like that's something that I can't personally accomplish because I just feel like I'm like such like a girly girls girl. Like, and
That's a very specific skill to have.
I think like in order to pull off like androgyny is, I mean, like I feel like it's subjective. If you want to do it, like I think anybody can, but personally me, I just feel like it's just so evident in like your style that you've really like managed to pull off everything that you know you're most comfortable with. Like honestly, just the whole like rocky, like rock star, like sex icon look is just like, I feel like you finally have like found your identity and you express it so well through not putting a label on it. I put on this tank top. I bought this tank top for me and I put it on me and I was like, I love it, but it's just so like Jill coded. I was like, I have to give it to her. Like, yeah, I love how you're just like so different from me. I think that's my compliment to you is like you're like so badass. Like I'm not badass. Like you're like badass.
I appreciate.
All right. Yeah. Well, Mikela and Jill, thank you for coming on Happy Hour.
Thanks for having us. I'm like
really, thank you. Like this was like a milestone that I wanted to check off.
Yay! And I can't wait for everyone to hear our conversation.
Thanks.
And
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
How are people going to decipher who's who speaking?
Hello, it's Melissa. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I just wanted to pop in and remind you to follow the podcast if you haven't yet. Our podcast actually quadrupled in size over the past month thanks to you all. So if you've been listening and you haven't followed the podcast yet, be sure to click that follow button on wherever you listen to your pods and leave a review. That is one of the best ways to get the show out there. But thank you so much for your listenerships. Thank you so much for your support. And I promise you, as you continue along this happy hour journey with me, I will do everything in my power. I will use every single ounce of my skills and my energy to bring you the best episodes that I can. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!